All right. Before we get started, let me make sure my voice is nice and loud and clear. Let me turn up this volume. All right. Volume is good. Let me know if the in-game volume is too loud when the drivers start doing their laps. But everybody, welcome back to Tier 2 Performance Racing League. It's been a while. Hasn't been a lot of streams this season, but glad to get in at least one stream for Tier 2 this season. Should be a good one, I believe. Nah, I don't know. I don't think we're gonna get 2 kick wins. I believe in my Craig man. Let me just join a party so nobody in game chat has to hear me. Alright, so we are racing in Monza today, and as you can see, it is raining. It is another special format for today's race. So let me bring up the announcements because it is a bit confusing. But basically, the stipulation for this weekend is that every driver must use both the wet compounds and all 3 dry compounds in the race. Now, because 50% races don't allow for too many weather changes, we have stipulated to where drivers can use 1 wet compound during the actual race, and that is basically whatever tire the racers decide. So if the racers decide to use the inters for their quali laps, then they will have to use the wet compound for the race. But if they use the wet for the quali, then they can use inters for the race. So that's basically the random stipulation for the wet tires, at least. But the all dry compound tires must be used in the race regardless. So even if you set a lap on softs in quali, you still have to use them for the race. So I believe we're going to have 12 drivers total today. I think somebody is joining late. But while the drivers are starting their laps, let's go through the standings. So for the driver standings, Joe Bidome in the Kick Sauber is your current Tier 2 championship leader. He has 357 points and has a 22 gap point to DRS Maestro in the Williams. Villeneuve in the Ferrari is close behind, 42 points behind Joe Bidome with 315. Tar Heels in the Red Bull is 299 points, 58 points back. And Marchena in 5th is also 58 points back. So both Red Bull drivers are having pretty good seasons. So Kick Sauber currently is leading the drivers or the constructor standings, 619 points, but only 21 points ahead of the 2 Red Bull drivers. And then Ferrari is a little bit further back with 513. And then VCarb is at 360 in 4th. So, it appears we got a couple of drivers on laps. I have not seen Death Skull before. I do believe he is a new driver and reserve, so why don't we stick with his lap and see what kind of time he can put up. Now, the times are going to differ a lot during this quali session because I believe it goes from full wet weather to dry right at the end. So I am curious what kind of lap times we're going to see, but from what I remember on the full wet weather at this period in time, it should be around the lower 130s, maybe 135s for Tier 2. That's still coming around Parabolica. It's going to be like a 132. 132.5 is your benchmark. Lewecki in the Ferrari gets a 132.7, 2/10 back, so relatively competitive. Looks like we have Joe, who's about to finish his lap. What is he going to set? A 131.0, 1.5 seconds ahead of the nearest competitor. Looks like we have a Mercedes. Craig has started his lap. The next Kicksauber of Rusty Oil Can, 150, so it looks like he's going to go for another lap. We have the other Mercedes of Heiskran crossing the line. A 133.9, so a bit far off the pace of the other drivers. We have the Aston Martin of Mysterious, 131.09, so 400ths behind. And it looks like a Red Bull just crossed the line. That's Tar Heels starting his lap. We have the other Ferrari of Villeneuve starting his lap as well. Maestro looks like he's about to finish his lap, and it looks like Marchena's going to get a little bit of a tow. Not much. A 131.1 for Marchena and a 133.3 for DRS Maestro. And I believe the next car... Oh, and we have a collision, apparently. Death Skull gets a 5-place grid penalty with Lewecki. Not sure what happened there. Lewecki is in the... Oh, and Ferrari. The Ferrari's out. Looks like he retired in the pit lane. Interesting. We'll stay on board with Craig. I believe he's the next driver who's actually going to finish a lap. Coming around Parabolica. Looks pretty competitive. Looks like it's going to be about a 132. Yeah, a 132.4 puts Greg in P4. Both Kicksaubers have done a lap. We'll stay on board with Tar Heels. Tar Heels is the next driver that's going to cross the line in the Red Bull. Looks like a relatively competitive time as well. About the same time entering Parabolica as Craig did, but it looks like it's going to be a bit slower. Yeah, it's going to be around a 133, high 133, 134.1 for Tar Heels, puts in P9. And Villeneuve, the last driver to set his first lap, is a 132.9, puts him P7 behind his currently retired teammate. Joe Biden, the GOAT, Mr. Bean? Yeah, maybe. So it looks like Mysterious is staying on his current set of wet tires, and it looks like he's probably just setting some laps, which is what I did in the early stages of Tier 1 qualifying. I kind of just stayed on the same wet tire and kind of just kept doing laps, seeing where I could gain, lose. You know what's funny about this game is, like, there's a dry line, but it's literally just like, it's almost like a cut in the track. Like, there's certain parts of the track where it's literally like a perfectly 90-degree straight line. It's quite funny. Typical Cody's nonsense, to be fair. And Joe Biden goes much quicker, 0.8 quicker than his previous lap, jumps into the 130s, almost into the 129 on those wet tires. Looks like Mysterious is going to save up some ERS and go for another lap. The track should be drying relatively... See, like, on the right side of the track there, the line is like a perfectly, like, 1 pixel 90-degree line. It's hilarious. So, who's this Ferrari? Okay, so Villeneuve is coming in. Looks like we have the Williams of DRS Maestro who's finishing a lap. This looks quick. Looks about 2 seconds quicker than when Tar Heels entered that section of the track. So it's going to be, it's going to be very close. A 139, DRS Maestro, the second driver to enter the 130s on the wet tires. Doesn't look like Rusty's going on a lap. Craig doesn't invalidate, up 1.1 seconds. That is very quick. I don't think it's going to put a pole, but it might be enough to jump Maestro if he gets a really good Parabolica here. You take that wide and then you try and cut in as much as you can. It looks like it's going to be a 130. 131.2 puts Craig in P5, just ahead of Rusty. So between P2 and P6 is about 4/10, and then a little bit further back, we have Death Skull 2/10 back of that group. So qualifying is quite tight right now. Maestro has completed his lap. Craig is done now as well. Looks like Rusty just started another lap, so we'll stay on board with the second kick Sauber. Takes that as wide as he can. Pretty good exit. Entering the tricky second chicane coming up. What is his first sector timing going to be? So he's up 2/10, so that would put him ahead. Actually, that wouldn't put him ahead of anyone. I just realized he's a second back of Craig. So Rusty's going to have to put in quite a bit of time here. But if there's... Oh, Rusty doesn't invalidate. What happened to Wecky's lat? I'm not sure. It said that he made contact, I think, with Mysterious. I think he retired in the pit lane. It looked like he retired in the pit lane from when I saw him. Rusty up 0.27 seconds, or up 0.27 tenths. Through Ascari he goes, headed towards Parabolica. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to Lewecki. I think he made contact with somebody, and then he retired after his one lap. Not too sure. Rusty about to finish his lap. Looks like it's going to be a 131, just though. A 132.0 flat. So he makes up time, but not enough to get close to the top 6. Who do we got else on a lap? Marchena is not. Tar Heels is coming into the pit lane. And Rusty just did his lap, so that is a bit of a break. Death Skull and Villeneuve are out on outlaps currently, so that gives us a little bit of time. I got you, Craig. I had time today to do comms, so I did comms. What do I want to look at? Let me just look at the standings again real quick. So, this is our third last race of the current Season 11 for PRL. And it looks... So obviously drivers like Tar Heels, Marchena, Villeneuve, Maestro, they're all going to want to try and gain points on Bidome because the gap's not big. 58 points is the furthest gap for P5, and then we got Azerbaijan and Portugal. Azerbaijan, as we know, very tricky track. Anybody can DNF there. So if anyone has a bad race there, they're going to be put in some serious pressure. So drivers are going to want to have a nice clean race this race to try and gain as many points as they can, because as we know, whether some drivers agree with it or not, Portugal is a double points finale. So in short, if you win the race, 50 points turns into 100. So no points lead at the moment is safe. Even in midweek where my points lead is quite high, if I have a bad race and let's say Lord or somebody else has a good race, that lead can be chopped very quickly. So everyone's got to try and maximize as many points as they can. Speaking of maximizing points, somebody who needs to do that today is the Ferrari driver of Villeneuve, only 42 points back of the championship lead. He is 1.1 seconds up on his time through the first sector alone. As we can see, the rain has definitely calmed down. Villeneuve has slapped on the inter tires. Yeah, the times are definitely going to start increasing here. Marchena with a 128.7 on the wet tires, which I don't think are the quickest tires right now. I think the inters are starting to cross over and be the quickest. So we're going to see what kind of lap Villeneuve can put in here with 4 minutes left. Now, what happened in Tier 1... Yeah, almost 3 seconds up through Sector 2. Villeneuve's going to put in a cracking lap here. But what happened in Tier 1 was the track dried with approximately 2 minutes left, and it was dry enough for softs, which is how your boy here got pole. Because, you know, I just timed it so well, right? I totally just didn't send it thinking it was still raining. But, yeah. Villeneuve's going to come through. It's going to be a 127. Ooh, just out of it. A 128.1 puts him on pole 3/10 quicker than the nearest driver of Death Skull in the V-Carb. Let's take a look at the tires here. So it looks like Joe is slapping on the softs, hoping for the rain to go away. Now, if it is the same as Tier 1, it could be different, but I believe we have perfect forecast on. But it could differ a little bit. Yeah, I was paying attention to it, Bean, because I saw on the weather radar that it said it was going to be dry at the end, so I was like, I'll take a look. So who do we have on laps? Death Skull is not. Is it short quali? Yes, it is short quali. Only one only one quali session. Heiskran just set his lap with the inters, a 122 or 129.2, 1.2 back of current pole position. Looks like everybody's thrown on the inters, apart from a couple. Joe is waiting out for softs, but I mean, I think by this time in Tier 1 the rain stopped. I'm not too sure, but we're gonna see. The track has a dry line, but it's definitely still raining. We have Mysterious. We have a Ferrari coming to the line. That's Villeneuve. Villeneuve starting another lap. So Villeneuve doesn't trust the softs. He's going to go for another lap on the inters. Craig is currently on a lap. No, he's not. He's probably saving for the next one. Same for Heiskran. Mysterious is on a lap. 2.3 seconds up. That would put him close to pole in the Aston Martin. Gotta remember, in this league, we do give pole position a point. So every point matters. Through Parabolica, Mysterious teetering on the edge. Keeps it on track. Is it going to be quick enough for pole? It is a 127.6 for Mysterious. That will be his final lap. Will it hold? Tar Heel's the next driver to cross the line. We don't know how much he's up. Is he going to be able to beat Mysterious's time? No, he is not. Jumps up to P5. That will be Tar Heel's final lap. Rusty Oil Can, a 127.9, puts him P2, just behind Mysterious, 3/10 back. Craig is setting up his final run. And it looks like Heiskran's retired. He's in the pit lane, though. And it looks like Villeneuve's about to finish his lap. That is pole for the Frenchman, a 127.4 in the Ferrari. That sets him up well for the race. Not a lot of drivers are going to be able to challenge that time. One of them is Craig, who just started his lap. We'll keep an eye on him. DRS has just been enabled. That is going to give drivers who have not started their lap, like this man, Joe Bidome, a huge advantage going down the DRS zones. With 25 seconds left, has Joe timed it perfectly? We will have to see. It looks like we have a Williams who's about to start his lap. DRS Maestro, he may have timed it a bit better. Tar Heels is not going to be able to start it. Same for Marchena. Is that the V-Carb? Yeah, Death Skull is starting his lap as well. So 3 drivers. Don't think Mysterious is going to be able to go quicker, so we're going to stay on board with Craig, who's going to be the first driver to complete the lap on the dry track on inters. I think Joe should have stuck with his gut. It does seem like the track would have been dry for him to start a run on softs, but he decided for the safer inters. Through Parabolica, Craig goes. This is looking like a quick lap. It's going to be probably a 125. A 124.4 for Craig, so 3 seconds ahead of the nearest driver. Joe Bidome is up 3.6 seconds. He's going to have to be up more than that. Through Parabolica, locks up a little bit. Can Joe Bidome steal pole position It looks like he's going to a 1:23.8 for your championship leader, puts him on pole position. Mysterious is up a second, but it's not going to be enough to get to the top of the field. Does Maestro have any answer? No, he invalidated. That would have put him P3. Death Skull jumps up to P3, a 1:24.6. And that is qualifying over. Joe Bidome takes pole position ahead of Craig Villeneuve and Death Skull. And there is your official qualifying order. But as we see, who has it? Death Skull, who has the 5-position grid penalty. So he will be starting P8. That moves up Mysterious, Villeneuve, Rusty, Tar Heels, and Marchena up 1 position. But Joe Bidome holds on to pole, gets the extra point, and will start at the front of the field for the 50% race. Good qualifying. Joe was able to snag pole even without being on the softs. So I do believe the race is going to be similar to Tier 1. It's going to start off slightly wet, and then by around between lap 5 and 10, it should dry out, and will give our drivers plenty of time to do their 3 stints on the dry tires. Now, of course, are we going to go for predictions or not? Are we going to go for predictions or not? Ooh, boy. You know what? I think I'm going to not do predictions this race. Tar Heels comment in Tier 2. Yeah, no predictions from me. If anyone in the chat has predictions, they can post them, but I ain't doing it. I'm not jinxing anybody this race. Championship's too close. Now, I do believe we'll have a formation lap. I usually run the formation lap in Tier 1 because it does appear to be fixed, but I do know... I already know yours, Bean. Yeah. But there should be a formation lap. I'm pretty sure Rusty wants to run formation lap as well, so there should be a formation lap to get the driver's tires up to temp. And now we just wait for the drivers to get ready. I didn't actually watch the actual F1 race today, but it seems like it was a pretty good one. Perez being Perez again. Yeah, I heard it was a good race, Bean. Yep, whoever's listening, who's racing, be nice turn 1. Tier 1 managed to do it. Let's make sure Tier 2 can as well. Piastri's a future champion? Absolutely. I have no doubt in my mind that if Piastri has the car to win, he can win. Honestly, I'd be starting to get nervous if I was Norris, because Piastri is actually able to hold on to the advantages that he's given with a good car. Here we go. Should be formation lap. Yep. So we have the full track map. Let's look at the tires. Everybody's on inters, so no difference there. I'm going to turn down my game volume just a tad. Just a little bit. Where is... Here it is. We'll turn it down 1. So it looks like Joe is going to use my strategy here and basically kind of just... maybe not. Honestly, the best strategy I find for warming up your tires if you're pole, just do like a slight normal racing lap. The tires, I mean, the wet tires don't really wear that much, so honestly, I'd just be doing a normal lap to get them up to the right temperatures. The game is giving us possible race strategies. That means, you know, F all in this race because the drivers will have to use all 3 dry compounds as well. Yeah, that's the main thing. On the grid, the tires do not cool down in the game. It would be good if they did, but they don't, because, you know, that would take effort for codies to actually code into the game. So doing a fast formation lap doesn't really hurt at all. Honestly, you're better off doing a faster one over a slower one. Because I think doing a slower one where you're constantly moving the tires is actually worse for tire wear. But our leaders are starting to line up. P6 and back are a little bit further back, but not too far. Joe is lined up. Craig is lined up. Mysterious is lining up. He didn't mill. He missed his box. Villeneuve missed it, or Mysterious didn't miss it somehow. Villeneuve did. Rusty's in. Tar Heels is in. Marchena's in. Dust Skull missed it. Heiskran gets it. Maestro gets his as well. And Lewecki is set up. So now we're gonna hide the UI. All 5 lights are out. We are racing in Monza. Joe gets a good start. Oh, Craig has a disastrous start. As they go into turn 1. Oh, it looks like almost somebody was ghosted there. Craig's ghosted, has a spin. Doesn't lose a wing. We're going to bring the UI back up. A disastrous start for Craig. Well behind the field now, but with all the pit stops this race, there is chance to make up ground. Heiskran drops to P10. These are the current position changes. Joe holds a 8/10 advantage over Mysterious. Rusty has moved up 2 positions. Villeneuve has held on to P4. Tar Heels is up to P5. Marchena up to P6. Lewecki up 4 positions. Good start for him. And Joe has already pulled a 1-second gap over the Aston Martin behind him, but no DRS is enabled, so that's not really an important gap just yet. As we enter Ascari, everybody enters it cleanly. I just noticed Maestro has slight wing damage. I'm not sure how much. Oh, Heiskran almost loses the car. Manages to keep it on track. Once again, that race strategy will not matter. Bidom leads lap 1, a 1.4 second gap over Mysterious. Rusty, 2/10 back of him. Not using the ERS, so he's just holding off for now. It looks like DRS is going to hold on. He's missing both end plates, so that's definitely not going to be easy to drive that car in these conditions, but he's going to hold on until the drivers actually make their pit stops. Craig is back up to P9, slowly trying to hunt the field ahead of him. And Rusty gets by Mysterious before the chicane and is up to P3, a current 1-2 for the Sour Boys. Good start for them. Same for the Red Bulls, P5 and P6. And the Ferraris, P4 and P7. So good starts for them, but not great starts for the Ferraris. It looks like Craig is under pressure from DRS Maestro. Craig is struggling a little bit in these wet conditions. Joe currently 2 seconds up on his teammate. Rusty almost pulling a second on Mysterious, but has a bit of a rough... Oh, was that a Ferrari spinning there? It looked like a Lewecki was almost spinning. Deskull just behind him. Is he going to go for the overtake? He's not using any ERS. Looks like he's going to place himself behind the Ferrari for now. Joe almost 3 seconds ahead of his teammate currently. Mysterious in the train of Rusty as well as Villeneuve. The Red Bull's a little bit further back. Craig now trying to bring down that gap to Lewicki and Deskel. Tell you what, with the current pace Joe's got now, it's his race to lose currently. 3 seconds already, almost 4 ahead of his teammate, and we're on lap 3. Villeneuve loses a place to Marchena. Marchena up 3 spots. Very good start for him at the start of the race. Villeneuve's going to want to try and stay within DRS of Marchena. Hopefully Marchena can bring them back into DRS of Mysterious. Tar Heels holding on the P6. Well, and Villeneuve's actually going for the move into Ascari. Cuts the corner pretty bad. That's definitely going to be at least one warning. But he does hold on to the position, but Marchena's coming right back at him. He's using ERS. And Villeneuve does not fight for the position. Marchena cuts in quite early. Villeneuve almost loses the car. That's going to lose him another position. And now the Red Bull's up to P4 and P5. Aston Martin splitting both those teams. And it does look like Craig in the Mercedes is struggling 4 seconds back of Lewicki right now. It doesn't look like his car has damage, but it does look like he's struggling a little bit in the rain. Back to the lead, 4.4 seconds separates the two Saubers. Rusty has escaped DRS range of Mysterious. Marchena has escaped a DRS of his teammate. And Tar Heels is trying to pull away from Villeneuve and Deskel. Oh, and Villeneuve goes really wide. Villeneuve is struggling a little bit in the rain here. Deskel is going for the move. Has less ERS, but has DRS. Villeneuve had enough ERS to hold the position. Lewicki, his teammate, following behind. DRS Maestro with his wing damage, holding on to Craig. The track does look like it's drying, though. I don't see any actual raindrops. It looks like the track is just wet. So we're actually going to see our first pit stops here. Tar Heels into the box. He's going to be the first pit stops of the day. Maybe a tad early. I think pitting the lap they are currently on would have been a better choice, but we'll see. Maybe it'll pay off for the Red Bull driver. Heiskran is in as well. He's taken the gamble. Oh, and we do have a yellow flag, it looks like. It looks like Villeneuve? Yeah, Villeneuve definitely had a moment. He's dropped back from Deskel and his teammate. Craig 6/10 back of him. Rusty's managing to equalize the gap a little bit to Joe. It's been 4.6 seconds for a good little while now, about a lap and a half. Rusty not using any ERS as well. He's using it now, though. So the top 5 all out of DRS of each other. Death Skull is definitely not out of the ERS of Lewicki, although it's not been activated yet. It should be activated very soon, though. Wonderful camera angle through Ascari and Villeneuve, the first driver to pick up a 3-second time penalty. Not one of the tracks you want to do it at, because it's relatively easy to keep it out or on track. That may hurt Villeneuve in the future. Our leader, Joe Bidome, is in. Rusty has decided to stay out. Smart move. His teammate is in. They would have lost time with the double stack. Mysterious is in. Marchena's in. Deskel is in. Lewicki is in. And Villeneuve is in. Villeneuve's going to get held up by his teammate here. Craig in the box as well. DRS Maestro is going to have a bit of a longer pit stop because he's going to have to change that wing. So Rusty currently leads the field. And he's going quicker than he's ever gone on the track, trying to put as much space as he can between the drivers behind him who have pit. You're believing in Mysterious, Red Eagle? We'll see. Currently one of the only drivers who has not gained or lost a position. Let's take a look at the tires. So Joe has opted for the quicker tire at the start. Mysterious has opted for the medium. Marchena the hard. Deskel the medium. Tar Heels and Craig the hards. Lewecki the softs. And Villeneuve the hards. DRS Maestro has opted for the mediums. We're going to see how fast he can catch up to the field. He was one of the quicker ones in qualifying. And Heiskran, the last driver to... Well, actually, not the last driver to pit. That's going to be Rusty. And we're going to take a look here to see what kind of tire Rusty puts on. He's going to get passed by his teammate, but he should stay ahead of Mysterious even with the undercut. What tire is Rusty going to put on? Looks like he's going for the mediums. So going for the halfway margin. Joe Bidome just passes his teammate now. Rusty should get ahead of Mysterious. It's going to be close. Within DRS for sure for Mysterious. Oh, and Rusty has a really bad exit with the cold tires. Mysterious has to brake a lot. Doesn't break a wing, though, so no harm, no foul. Heiskran setting the fastest lap on the hard, a 1:27.9. Craig currently in DRS of Lewecki, who is in DRS of Tar Heels. Will Rusty be able to hold off Mysterious? His tires are definitely going to be a bit more race pacey than Rusty's currently. You can see it for sure. 7 tenths, gained 2 tenths through Sector 2. But it looks like Rusty's got more top end from the looks of it. But looking at the gap, Joe already 8 seconds ahead of his teammate. Definitely putting those softs to work, but they're not going to last very long. The softs in general in this game are not very good, and they don't last that long at all. Joe with a 1:23.4, probably trying to secure fastest lap early. We will see if that holds up. Lewecki makes a pass on Tar Heels. Big tire gap between the two of them there, but Lewecki's got no ERS, and Tar Heels has got plenty with DRS. Not going to be a very difficult move for the Red Bull driver. This is going to make Lewecki a bit frustrated. Has the quicker tires, but can't get past the driver on hards. Marchena just outside Mysterious's DRS range. He's definitely going to try and get as close as he can. Craig's definitely going to want to take advantage of the 2 cars ahead of him battling. Hopefully he can get himself into DRS as well. Villeneuve just hasn't been the race Villeneuve's wanted. Dropped from P2, I believe, to all the way to P9. Has had a time penalty already. Got held up by his teammate in the pit lane. Definitely not the start that Villeneuve's wanted, but let's see if he's able to bring it back towards the drivers ahead of him. Looking through the field, Mysterious is close to Rusty. Rusty has not been able to close the gap. Rusty has a good amount of ERS saved. Does look like Rusty's got some serious top end on that Sauber, which is not allowing Mysterious to catch. Oh, and Rusty with a big lockup gets tapped in the back, I believe, by Mysterious. And absolute disaster for Rusty in the Sauber from P2 to P5. That huge lockup caught Mysterious off guard and gave him a slight tap, which spun him around. So Marchena now in the Red Bull up to P2. Mysterious stays P3. Deskel up to P4. Tar Heel's a little bit further back in P6, and it looks like Lewicki, I just realized, has a 10-second time penalty. I did catch that for speeding in the pit lane. Not a good day for the Ferrari guys. It does look like Villeneuve has pit again. What tire is he on? He's on the medium now. And Lewicki picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. Joe Biden, another fastest lap of the race, a 1:22.9, almost a second quicker than his previous lap. The track has definitely evolved to probably its quickest state. Marchena just has outside of the DRS range of Mysterious. Mysterious under pressure from Death Skull. Rusty a little bit further back, 1.4. Does look like he's kind of gaining on the cars ahead of him, not much. Craig currently in P7. I just realized Craig's got a front end plate that is missing from that car, so that's definitely costing him pace. Maestro has pulled up to 1.8 seconds of Craig. With that wing advantage, he's definitely going to be able to pull a lot of time through this sector of the track. Going through the field, the closest battle is Death Skull to Mysterious, but he's now dropped out of DRS range. So everybody apart from Rusty, Rusty's actually pulled himself into DRS of Death Skull, so Rusty's definitely got some pace. And Joe is done with the softs. Into the pit he comes. Will he put on the hards, or will he put on the softs? Looks like Mysterious has followed him in. Mysterious pitting quite early on the mediums, though. I assume he's going to go onto the hards here. Yes, he is. Joe has gone onto the hards. So Joe is going to finish the race on the mediums by the end of it. And Mysterious will be on the softs by the end. Heiskran is in as well. That's very early for hards. I guess he's going to go mediums for a while. Interesting stop for Heiskran. I think he would have gone a little longer. Villeneuve gets by on the new medium tires. So Rusty's actually gotten by Death Skull. We missed that one while looking at the pit stops. But Rusty's got some good pace right now. So if we look at the stops, basically from P7 down, everybody has done 2 stops. And they will be left with 1 stop left to go, whereas everybody ahead of Joe has to do 2 more stops. And it looks like Death Skull has opted for it. He's into the pits on the mediums. He's probably going to go to the hards. Craig under pressure from Maestro, and Maestro gets by. As we know, Craig is missing that right front end plate, so he's definitely losing a little bit of pace. Maestro, not a very difficult overtake. Oh, gets a little bit on the grass there. Now Craig will attempt to try and stay within DRS of the Williams ahead of him. With the supposed race leader right behind them. And these are the current penalties. 3 seconds for Villeneuve, 13 for Lewicki. Your current race leader is Marchena. Who opted for the hards. He's probably going to stay out there till probably lap 15 or 14. Rusty on the mediums decides to pit. He's probably going to slap on the hards. Craig has managed to stay within DRS of Maestro, which will give him a little bit of extra pace. And there goes Joe. Mysterious about 17 seconds back of Joe, it looked like. What's the time now? Yeah, about 10 seconds. Oh, and it looks like Lewicki just lost his left front end plate, tapping the back of Descol, who had to slow down way more than usual because of Rusty coming out of the pit lane. So that's definitely going to hurt Lewicki. Puts another damper on his current race. Marchena, still the current race leader. On the hards, his teammate behind him by 10 seconds. Curious when these Red Bulls are going to pit, because I do believe they're on the same strategy. It looks like Tar Heels is opting for it. Into the pit lane he goes, nice and slow and safe. Tar Heels the first of the Red Bulls to pit, which now leaves Marchena and Maestro, the only drivers to have not pitted 2 times. Looks like we got a bit of a 3-car train here. Descol on the softs, followed by Rusty on the hards, and Lewicki on the hards. I'm not sure how old those softs are. Only 2 laps old, so Rusty's still challenging it, though. He's got that pace advantage, even with the tire advantage to Descol. Rusty's giving it to him. Ooh, Descol dipping his toes a little bit in the grass. Oh, and Lewicki goes wide there. That's probably at least one warning. Here goes Rusty on Descol. Going to be an easy pass. Lewicki not going to be able to take advantage of that. Marchena is into the pit lane. Your current race leader. Going from hards, probably going to go on to the mediums. Yep. Didn't even show the animation there. I thought he was serving a penalty. Joe Bidome sets the fastest lap of the race on the hard tire, a 1:22.5. Currently only 1.5 seconds back of Maestro, who has not pitted yet. Mysterious just able to get by Marchena, but Marchena's going to be on much better tires. Oh, and it looks like we got a moment with somebody. Not sure who it was. I think it was Death Skull. Was it? No, I think it was Rusty. Rusty was just with him, and it looks like he may have just had a little bit of a moment in the first chicane. Yeah, Marchena is all over Mysterious's gearbox. Both of them, I think, are going to be going to the softs at the end, so this is a fight for P2 currently, because Maestro will have to pit. Marchena's going to want to get this move done as quickly as he can to make use of those better tires while that he has them. He's going to wait for the DRS to gain that maximum speed advantage. Bit of a rough Ascari entry. He's going to burn the overtake, but so will Mysterious. But Mysterious has got basically none, which is going to slow him down even more on the straight. Marchena goes around, very easy for him. And that is net P2 for Marchena. Mysterious will attempt to stay within DRS. Rusty has managed to pull more of a gap to Descol after his moment. He was 2.7 seconds back the lap previously. Those softs do not last a long time either, so Driscoll's probably fighting him a little bit, even on 4 laps old. Tar Heels a little bit further back. Villeneuve currently in P8. I believe he has pitted twice, so I think his last tire is going to be the soft. Loki has pitted and gotten rid of his 10-second time penalty, but he is still well back of Heiskran and Craig. What are the stops looking like? He's done his 3rd stop, though, whereas everybody else hasn't. What tire is Lewicki on? He's on mediums. Mediums can go to the end pretty easily. And our last pit stop for the 2nd time is a Maestro. He will have 1 more pit stop to go after this one, so he's probably going to drop to just ahead of Villeneuve. Marchena sets the fastest lap as well. And it looks like Death Skull is in for his final pit stop. Where is Maestro going to come out? Just ahead of Villeneuve, as we said. Death Skull onto the hards for his final pit stop of the day. Craig gets by him, stays P8. But as we can see, your leader, Joe Biden, this is his last stint, I believe, or has he got his... No, he's got the mediums to put on. But he is currently 9.9 seconds ahead of Marchena in P2. Marchena holding off Mysterious even with DRS on the quicker medium tires. And now Rusty has gotten some free air in P4. I'm curious if maybe Rusty's got the pace to catch up to the drivers ahead of him. 7 seconds is a big gap. He did have the pace previously. So we'll see. I think Rusty's going to be on the sauce at the end. But I do believe Marchena and Mysterious are as well. So we'll see. Oh, and we have a spin! Mysterious in the Aston Martin stuck, breaking his wing, trying to get the car going. And that drops him from potential P2 all the way to P7 with broken wings. He was supposed to go in the softs at the end, so I think he's going to have to hold out with that broken wing. What a disaster for the Aston Martin driver, having a fantastic race so far. But now that puts Rusty Oil Can back into the podium positions. Marchena, a well gap ahead of him, but a well gap behind him as well. DRS Maestro 3 seconds back of Tar Heels. Maestro's going pretty quick here. There is potential for him to catch up to Tar Heels for that 4th spot. Maybe even Rusty, we never know. I do believe Maestro is going to be on the softs at the end as well. Villeneuve is going to be on the softs as well, but he's got that 3-second time penalty, which is going to hurt him in the end. Craig, I believe, is going to be on the softs as well. Mysterious is as well, but is he going to come in? He is going to come in and repair the wing. That's going to hurt, though. Is he going to try to go on softs for 7 laps? 8 laps. Oh, it looks like it. Those softs are not going to be fun at the end of the race. Tell you what, Marchena's pulled a decent gap to Joe ahead. Oh, that's definitely going to be track limits. It was about 10 seconds, but it's now dropped to 9. Craig, 3-second time penalty for track limits. Don't think that's going to affect him too much. His teammate's relatively far behind, and the nearest driver ahead of him also has a 3-second time penalty. Rusty is not gaining on Marchena. So, unless something crazy happens here, these 3 are kind of giving themselves the best possible chance. I mean, Joe well ahead of P2. So these three drivers are giving themselves the best chance to stand on that podium. Definitely not the race that the the Ferraris or the Mercedes would have wanted, but a great race for the Kicks and the Red Bulls so far. 1 and 3 for Kick, 2 and 4 for Red Bull. With just under 8 laps to go. Looks like the quickest battle on track is Death Skull trying to get by Highscran. Does have the better tires. Highscran has been on those mediums for a good while. You can tell Highscran is struggling, already a second back from Death Skull. Maestro's now pulled the gap to just over a second to Tar Heels, so he's going to be challenging for that P4 relatively quickly, and Tar Heels is slowly catching up to Rusty, so Maestro giving himself a good chance to maybe fight for the podium here. Might be a 3-car battle at the end, because all of them are going to be on softs, so it's all going to be equalized tire-wise. But while we do that, since there isn't any extremely close battles, actually, you know what? Let's go on board with Maestro this lap. HUD away. And let's see if he can get the pass done here. Yes, he does. Gets past Tar Heels for that P4, and now he's got the Kick Sauber ahead to chase down. While we do that, let's take a little bit of a commentary break and watch Maestro try and chase down that Kick Sauber of Rusty. Alright, we're back. So Rusty is pitted for the softs relatively early. Those are not going to be fun to use at the end. Joe has pitted for the softs. Oh, Joe's pitted for the mediums. Oh yeah, true. He's pitted for the mediums. Joe, I forgot, he started on the softs. So Marchena on to the softs. Joe on to the mediums. Tar Heels and Maestro are through, but they're going to have to pit once again. Villeneuve is in, Craig is in, everybody's following everybody. Death Skull does not have to pit again from what I remember. Does he? Let's take a look at the stops. Nope, Death Skull is clear, so he is good to go to the end. Rusty comes out in P6. Chasing down Death Skull ahead of him. Now, Marchena will have a slight tire advantage to start here, but the softs do not last very long, so don't think he's going to be able to make a big enough gap to Joe. And I mean, Joe has been flying this race. Rusty's going to have DRS on Death Skull. Joe catching up to the two leaders ahead of him, who are probably going to pit this lap or the next lap. Maestro stays out. Tar Heels is in. There goes his teammate of Marchena. And here goes Rusty on Death Skull. Fairly easy overtake with the quicker tires and the DRS. So now Rusty is trying. I mean, he's going to try to chase down Marchena, but I don't think that's going to happen. That's a pretty big gap. The interesting thing will be if Maestro. Curious how quick or how close he's going to be to Rusty. Same for Tar Heels, because Tar Heels is pitted, and he's about 4 seconds back, and Maestro picks up 3 seconds of penalties. So that's definitely going to hurt him trying to chase down Tar Heels and Rusty ahead of him. A brutal penalty to take at the end of the race. Deskull staying within DRS of Rusty. Good on him with... Oh, okay, I thought that was a penalty announcement, but Joe sets the fastest lap again, a 1:21.5. Loecki with another 3-second time penalty. That's not really going to affect him too much. Although it will prevent him having an opportunity to actually fight Craig and Villeneuve ahead of him. And Maestro still staying out. He is waiting a long time to put on the softs. Marchena has lost pace to Joe, so even with the tire advantage, Joe is showing how quick he is. Rusty is about equalized at 9 seconds to Marchena. Deskull staying within that DRS range. So I think the closest battle for position as of right now is Craig on Villeneuve for that P7 spot. Oh, and Deathskull picks up a 3-second time penalty. That might hurt him because Tar Heels is coming with steam. And that may hurt him because if Maestro's quicker, he's got that 3-second time penalty too, so this could be a bit of a disaster for Deathskull. He could lose a couple positions here. And Maestro has stayed out still. Lap 25. I do hope Maestro knows that he has to put on the softs, because he's only pitted twice, and we haven't seen softs on him. He should gain a little bit of pace here on Joe with the DRS. He's about 20 seconds ahead of Rusty, but he's not given him enough time on the fresh softs to be able to catch him. We shall see. Everybody's still closest battles are around 5, 6 tenths away from each other. Let's do hope that Maestro hasn't forgotten how many pit stops he's done. Oh, Maestro's still going. That is not a good sign, because he's got to complete one racing lap. So if he doesn't pit this next lap, that will be a disqualification for Maestro. Marchena and Rusty hold the opportunity to gain positions here. Deskull still staying close to Rusty, but he does have that time penalty. Villeneuve gets past Craig, so these two have been battling a little bit. Loecki not too far behind, but he's got that extra 3-second time penalty to deal with. We are going to keep an eye on Maestro here because he's got to pit this lap. He's got to do one racing lap where he crosses the line on softs. Oh, and Maestro has forgotten how many pit stops he's got to do. He's only done 2 stops, and they all started on inters, which means Maestro has forgotten to put on one of the dry tire compounds. I'm not sure which one it is. I'm pretty sure it's the softs. But this is going to be a bit of a heartbreaker for him. He thinks he's challenging maybe for the lead if he can get that time penalty removed, but it's going to go from thinking he can win the race to dropping all the way to the back of the field. Death Skull has actually gotten past Rusty, even with the slower tires. Yeah, I mean, Rusty's on 6-level tires. Those are probably not that fun to drive right now. But with Death Skull's penalty, if Rusty can keep it within 3 seconds, that is a guaranteed increase to P4. Well, actually, it's the battle for the podium because Maestro is going to get disqualified, unfortunately. But as we say that, your leader, Joe Bidome, is going to cross the line and extend his championship lead on the drivers behind him. He takes the win in Monza. Marchena coming around Parabolica. He is going to hold on to P2 and get that second step on the podium. Death Skull is going to finish ahead of Rusty on track, but Rusty is going to take the last spot on the podium. Tar Heels will finish P5. Villeneuve is going to finish P6 just ahead of Craig. Craig will jump up to P7 behind Villeneuve. Lewicki will move up to P8. Mysterious jumps up to P9 past Lewicki, but he will jump up to P8 with Maestro's disqualification. Lewicki will be P9, and Heiskran will be in the top 10 with a P10 finish. And that is your top 11, I guess. Yeah, another race with wing damage, Craig. Unfortunate. Looked like you had pace for maybe a podium, maybe... But unfortunately, that wing damage costed you. Anytime, Craig, anytime. So, as the drivers celebrate their podiums, Joe Bidome gets the royal flush. Gets pole position, wins the race, and gets fastest lap. That is a maximum of 53 points for the Sauber driver. That is going to give him a nice increase in the standings. Maestro was his nearest competitor, 22 points back. But with Maestro being disqualified from the race, which will drop him in P11, which will only gain him 9 points, that is going to put Joe Bidome's gap to at least 50 points heading into Azerbaijan. Because he's also gained a lot of points on third place Villeneuve. Tar Heels finished 4th, I believe. So he has gained points on everybody. Marchena finished P2. He's going to get closer to Maestro and Villeneuve. So the lead is separating themselves a little bit, but P5 to P2 has gotten even closer. But that has been enough for me. I have been your host, Gord Sauce. Thank you for joining me for round 12 for Performance Racing League at Monza Season 11. We got 2 more races, Azerbaijan and Portugal, coming up before Season 11 is wrapped up. Make sure to tune in to Tier 1 if they have comms. Midweek on our Wednesdays is also finishing up its championship. I will most likely be doing the last 2 races for Tier 2 comms if I have time. So I will be there to stream both of them to see how the championship finishes up in Tier 2. But like I said, I have been your host, Gord Sauce. Thank you for joining me and watching these Tier 2 guys race around Monza, and we will see you guys next week.